All right. Happy Thursday, everyone. Today we're going to go over just a few things. I'm going to give you one additional piece of new information about saving data to files, and then we'll jump right into the assignment for this week. There are two different challenges you can pick from, so I'm going to go over each one in a fair amount of detail so you can kind of see what's involved with each one of those. So first, let's get into our last bit of file storage here. And I'm going to introduce you to a Python library today called Pickle. Pickle gets its name from the act of pickling, which is a way of preserving things. So it's a library for saving data. And we already went through the basics of opening a file, saving some simple data to that file, and then retrieving that data back from that file and using it in our program. And that's great. But what happens if we have more complex data? Like let's say some data that might look like, let's see here, this data here. Let's take that data. Now you can kind of see what's there. You can kind of see that it looks like, or it looks similar to the employee database data that we've been working with. But it's got some weird things going on in it. You can see that each line contains an entire employee record. You can see that each piece of the employee record is separated by 3 pipe characters. And that was just a simple way of encoding that data so that I could save it to a plain text file and then get it back out later. But the act of doing those things is pretty complicated. And this data out in the real world wouldn't really qualify as something that's super complex. It's relatively simple. It's a nested dictionary. So it's a dictionary that has a dictionary inside, or maybe it's an array that contains dictionary objects. Either one could work for this. But what you see here is an encoded version of that data. So what I've done here is for each person or each record in that dictionary, I've taken that and I've used that join, or I've put them in an array, right? And I've used array.join with these 3 pipe characters to glue them together into a single line of text, and I've written them to a text file. Now, why did I use the pipe characters? Because it's highly unlikely that that character is going to appear in somebody's name or email address or something like that. So if I use 3 of them in a row, will you never see those out in the wild in real use? I don't know. Probably not for most data. For this data, I can be pretty confident because I know it's not part of an age. Nobody has a pipe character in their name, and it's not legal for email addresses. So if I use that character, it's safe for me to say that anytime I encounter 3 of those in a row is where I can split that. So when I want to take this data and load it into my program for me to use, I have to read each line of this. So I read this line into a string. And then I take that string and I split it into an array using that. So I get an array that has the first name, last name, age, and email address. And then I take that array and I assign it first name, last name, age, email address in a dictionary. And then I add that to my main data structure. That's a lot of steps. So it's kind of a pain, even for relatively simple data. What Pickle does for us is it allows us to just take a whole data object, like that dictionary with dictionaries inside, and save it. Save the whole thing exactly as it is, preserving the structure and everything into a text file with like 2 lines of code. So it's really, really useful for complex data storage.